I was in prayer and I was speaking to God concerning my heart. And he says to guard your heart because all the things that you do flow from it. And so I thought to myself, but God, what about the stuff that is already in my heart? What about the things from the past that have been planted in my heart that took root and grew? It may not show up all day, or it may not show up every day or every other day. It may show up in seasons. And then that led my mind to think about perennials. Perennials are the bulb, the seed that you plant one time for the flower, and every season it just comes back on its own. And so when you go through things and a seed is planted in you and it takes root and it blooms and blossoms every so often, when it's triggered, something waters that seed, whether it's a family member or a person, or somebody coming back from your past, or an experience, a place, or a time of the year. Something causes for that seed in your heart to start to blossom again, and that shows up in action in a certain way, and it can ultimately show up in disobedience against God, where now you are out of the alignment, the will of God, because you're doing things, right? Because everything that you're doing is flowing from your heart, and that seed was rooted, and you're holding these things in your heart. But that's where I was saying that to say, that's where your mental health also comes into play, because there are certain reasons why we do things. The brain is very fragile, it's sensitive, and hormones come into play, and chemicals that are released in the brain, and these things come into play when trauma is involved. And so there's got to be an intersection where our mental health and our heart, the trauma that we have stored up in our heart, meet. And we have to be able to identify both of them and figure out how they correlate together, and how to be able, once we do that, then we can figure out how to no longer allow for us to act in that way, or to now rely on God to help us to be able to get through that trauma and to uproot it